Listen, I don't want to drop a dime on this guy, but I saw Roberto smoking weed in the porta potty down the highway. I mean, I went to use the porta potty and he stepped out and it reeked of marijuana.
Did he pass the Dolce?
Glenn.
Good afternoon.
Good to see you again, my friend.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, everyone loved your appearance, so we thought we'd check in and get a little update. So last time we saw you, you were in the earlier stages of cleaning a parcel off, and this is kind of the finished product here?
This is near finished product, will be done today. The last property we finished a day late. The rain killed us. They shut down the landfill. Rains a little bit, and Calabasas landfill shuts down pretty early. So that kind of killed our schedule. As soon as the rain stopped, we were able to come back and finish the job. And here we're just sifting through the last little bits of concrete. When you break concrete with big heavy equipment, it all falls apart. So we're coming out, rake up the last little bits and make it presentable for our clients.
So this goes forward and there's caissons in the ground?
So there are caissons. If you want to take a look, we can walk to the edge here. There's several different types of caissons. If you look in the distance over there, those are basically telephone poles wrapped in fiberglass or steel. And there's concrete caissons, there's steel caissons wrapped in concrete. This property was a combination of two things. So these down here are old telephone pole style caissons, and the client wants to leave them in place for now. And then this structure right here behind you is a heavily fortified foundation, and there are 4 heavy duty concrete caissons underneath this. So this is the modern construction, that's the older construction. And then right along here is the seawall that this homeowner elected to build at some point. I don't know when it was built.
So the old ones were pylons where they just took telephone poles that were dipped in creosote and they drove them into the earth. Like they just bang, 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 pile driver. That's how they used to build old bridges over water and stuff like that. Then at some point, they got caissons, which had big auger bits, and they got a big caisson rig, a giant drill rig, and just drill, like when a dentist puts a post into your jaw, drill the hole, then put a concrete rebar cage in it, and then fill it with concrete, and then come up and tie it into grade beams or whatever it is we're doing up top. And so this is old school, like from the 50s pylons, which kind of worked.
They don't accept them anymore.
They do not accept them anymore. And then this is new school with the rebar hanging out, and this has proper caissons drilled in here, and then there's a seawall somewhere, and there's a septic tank somewhere.
Septic tank is over here. So they don't want a septic tank underneath your house. So all of these houses basically had a garage and then a patio in the entrance. So the septic tanks are underneath the patios so that they can vent and you can have access to them whenever you want.
Oh, okay, so that's like an access to a septic tank.
Right, so those 2 lids are access. Those lids over there are access, and then there's another 2 lids over there. This is 3 separate properties.
And these things are really, in terms of square footage,
pretty small.
I mean, they're pretty small. When people talk, half acre, quarter acre, 1/8 acre, 8,000 square foot properties are pretty small property, just sort of in the valley or on a flat.
These lots are
tiny,
about 30 feet by about 80. And it's all vertical. You get a tiny little patio right here, and the rest is 2-story house.
So you're talking a 2,500 square foot lot.
Footprint, yeah.
Wow. And I guess it stops at some point.
So you can see 6 caissons here, or 6 pylons here. There's 3 more over there. So most of these houses, the front patio went to where the silt fence is over there.
Yeah.
So the waves would crash like right underneath your front porch.
Yeah, I used to walk up and down here, and when the tide came up pretty high, they got right up to the pilasters or caissons or whatever we're calling them in this case. Now, the thing that's funny about this place is my place is right there. So I am literally dead nuts directly across the street. Keep an eye on you situation, making sure you're not pilfering anything or shirking or, just cracking a cold one at noon. And now you get to see what I just missed. I got my building and that building's fine, and then the next one right there. Now, the restaurant across the street, when I fled to Burbank to stay in a hotel that night, I got word that the restaurant underneath my condo was gone.
Right.
And that's all I could see from the news. And I was like, well, once that restaurant's gone and the fire started behind me, I thought, oh, there's no chance my place is there. The place in front of it's gone, but nothing. Are you guys prepared to do some of these homes that are up on a slope?
We're capable.
You're capable
What
of
it comes down to us is who calls us and who doesn't. From our last video, I've been getting a lot of phone calls. A lot of people looking for work from out of state, looked up American Wrecking, called the office, and they're asking for Glenn. Some of your other fans, particularly when I met a nice old gentleman, his kid is a fan of yours, and said, Dad, you gotta call this guy. So they got a hold of my number, I talked to him. He's 80, doesn't really run around so well. So I went and looked at his property, and then I went to his new place and showed him pictures and video, and he says, I wanna preserve this, I wanna preserve that, and I said, we can do all of that. It's just money. The more things you need to protect, we may have to use smaller equipment. He's gonna get a great deal. He's happy, it's under budget for him.
So you got some business off our last video.
Absolutely.
I'm glad to hear that, because in my business, there's something called a VIG, you know, a finder's fee. You kind of wet your beak. We call it wetting the beak. It's not 80%, but it's when I push business your way, then I get a taste of what's coming in. That's my business.
I'll be sure to ask them if it was from Adam Carolla interview then.
If it was, then it's just 15%.
Okay,
it's a standard fee. So, you know, you said your stuff goes from about 40 to about 90.
40 to 90.
So, you know, I'm gonna be in the 6,500, 13,500 range. It could go higher. Okay, so just kind of keep that in mind. So these guys are literally sifting right now just to make sure there's nothing left that you could run barefoot through this sand.
So
through here.
You can see on that end over there, the guys, that site has a lot of roots because that was their patio area. And you can see the chunks of concrete that they're raking up. But if you go look at the other side over there where some of the other contractors were, it's not as neat. It's very difficult to do, but you know, like I said, we're here to do the best job we can for these clients.
Are you still on about a 3 or 4 day pace for these lots, these flat ones?
So this one here is going to be done in 6 days total, but it's 3 lots.
Oh, okay.
So it's better than 3 or 4 days over the 3 lots.
And how many lots do you have lined up?
Over 30 now.
Over 30?
Yeah, but not all on PCH. So I've got about 20 lots in Altadena, maybe 5 in Pacific Palisades, and growing very rapidly. So
wow, because you had about 4 more lined up here last time.
So this was 3 of the 4. We're on the 4th one. Down the road is one single lot that's about the size of 2 of these. And we're hoping to have that one done on Monday, Tuesday. Monday if we're lucky. Tuesday is what we budgeted for. So I'm happy with doing it for what I scheduled it for, but if I can get out a day early, we can go move on from there and be happy.
The seawall is something I'm interested in because I can't really wrap my head around how low it is.
This particular property here has an angled wall that's about 6-inch thick concrete, and the owner came out with his general contractor and we dug a good 8 feet down and we did not find the bottom of this seawall. So there's a head wall here and then there's like a buttress built going down.
And it slopes.
And it slopes. That's the first one of this kind that I've seen.
Well, this is all new because it's got green rebar in it, and that's new rebar.
And you can see they built it on top of an old pile.
Yeah, because that's old number 3 or 4 or whatever, and it's not green.
But if you go 2 lots down, the seawall sucks. It's literally, it's broken up, or it was wood, and it burned, and the sand is coming out from underneath the garage slab. We're standing at the edge of the garage, and this is a pretty good footing. It goes down about 24 or 30 inches, and that's the bottom of it. The owner asked us to expose this, otherwise we wouldn't expose it. We'd want the sand to not undermine the garage foundation, but he asked us to because his general contractor wanted to inspect it so that he has a plan going forward.
What about this thing? What is this thing?
So this is a fortified foundation. Again, this is modern construction. We didn't know it was here. The owner didn't know it was here. So when we discovered it, I called the client and I said, hey, you should come take a look at this. With a foundation like this, you may want to elect to try to reuse it in your new construction, because something like this could cost 100 grand because of the caissons that were installed here.
Oh, they got caissons
yes,
going
there's a
down.
caisson on every corner, and we don't know how deep they go, and we don't want to undermine them. So now, again, we're back to the client, and we're giving them the possibility to reuse. They may have to come back and remove it later. My scope was to go 3 feet or 2 feet below the sand, so I would take out this bond beam on top. But they agreed with me. The possibility, just a little gamble of being able to save 100 grand down the road for these 4 caissons.
Yeah,
they're going to take it.
Just so the people at home, caissons on all 4 corners.
Correct.
And then this bond beam ties in to the caissons, and then they pour the bond beam.
With a structure this heavy, you could cantilever out to any direction. You could do a lot with this.
Right. And if you people see green rebar, it means new. And also, that's number 5 rebar, which is 5/8, maybe even number 6 on the corners there. And then you see the old stuff, and it's skinny and rusty, and that's old. So you can see old rebar, new rebar.
I've got one client in Altadena who's going to want to look for their mother's remains. So I'm going to come in.
The mother was in the house?
No.
Or the mother was in an urn?
In an urn. I asked if the urn was metal, and he said, unfortunately, no. I told him that the chances of being able to find the difference between that ash and the rubble ash, and he said, nope, I've got a company, they're going to bring in cadaver dogs, and they say they can locate it.
You have a client that had their mother in an urn.
Correct.
The ashes of the mother were in an urn, but the urn was not metallic, and the urn is surely gone.
Correct.
But a cadaver dog can smell the ashes of the mother who was put in the urn 10 years ago in amongst all the other ash.
That's what he was told.
Really?
My job is to facilitate access safely for them.
And the cadaver dog is going to, go to where the fireplace is, where the urn may have been on the mantelpiece
that's
or
what
whatever.
I'm imagining.
What the hell can't a dog sniff? They can do gunpowder, they can do drugs, and they can do ashes that were cadavers and now became ashes 2 times over and still sniff it out.
Correct.
That's why they
Pretty
call
awesome,
them,
isn't it?
yeah, man's best friend. Do you have any information about building? Talk to any contractors that have come around, surveyors, soils report guys, foundation guys?
Soils report guys, no. General contractors, yes. And they're all racing to get in front of the city before they get completely inundated with plans. I've talked to the inspectors also, and what the inspectors are saying is, if you come to us with poorly designed plans, they're just going to get thrown back in your face. If you do a good job and spend the right amount of money on engineering and a good detailed plan, then we can move forward rapidly. But I don't think this is going to be 6 months. It's going to be a little longer than that before anyone can actually start building.
And everyone's going to have to pull up these old septic systems and redo the seawalls?
So there was a big meeting a couple nights ago in the city to discuss just that. This particular property has an upgraded system, so they will likely be able to reuse it. And I said likely.
Because it was done in the last 7 years.
Correct. So it was actually really trick stuff to use UV light to kill bacteria before the water leaches back into the groundwater, or into the ground. So it's really neat stuff. The other 2 tanks on each side are your standard septic tanks. So the decision was made, talking to the client and their general contractors, of let's leave the septic tanks in the ground, because there's a possibility that you can add to them and keep it in the ground. Now the key word is possibility. Mm-hmm. If we rip it out now, then you have 0 possibility. Right. It'll likely cost more later to rip it out. As a matter of fact, I would have ripped them out at no cost. They're real easy. It'd take me half an hour to rip them out with this machine.
Oh, really?
But later on, you're going to have to do it carefully, especially if you already start construction. Now you have to be careful with this, be careful with that.
Are these your guys over here, Glenn?
Those are my guys right here with the vests on.
I don't want to drop any dimes, but that one guy's just been leaning on that rake for 20 minutes. You got to put a fire under this guy. He's making the company look bad. He's standing there like a statue, leaning on that rake like it's holding him up. What's that kid's name?
That's Ricardo Arana.
Tell Ricardo to get his asso in gear O.
He is one of our best guys. So.
I don't think so.
We finished an 8-story hospital at Camp Pendleton under the biggest scrutiny possible.
Not with Ricardo.
He was the guy on the job.
No, not Ricardo. Listen, my dad was one of the best rake men in the business. Okay. Nobody handled a rake like my dad. It was like nunchucks with Jackie Chan. It was crazy. He was ranked the #1 rake man in the Pasadena municipal area for 21 straight years. So don't tell me about raking, Glenn.
So Ricardo's my foreman. So he gets in there and gets his hands dirty to help the laborers too. So he doesn't even have to work.
What's this other joker's name? He's just standing there chewing on the ear of the contractor.
You're gonna love this one. His name is Custodio.
Custodio.
It means custodian.
Custodio. Well, tell Custodio that the Jefe told him to get his ass in gear.
No.
Tell him I'm the new Jefe on this site.
Good luck with
I don't want him leaning against the rake.
So Ricardo is Custodio's son. It's a family business. The guy running that machine is Custodio's brother and Ricardo's uncle. We're a family business, and there's about 6 or 7 Arana family members that work for American Wrecking.
Not a lot of dudes named Glenn, I imagine.
No, it was my dad and then me.
And all your construction experience, have you ever worked with one guy named Adam?
Yes.
Oh, you did?
Yes, but they were my clients, not.
Oh, there's never been a guy who swung a hammer named Adam. Adam is the least likely construction name ever. Mike is good. Jose?
A lot of Jose's.
A lot of Jose's. Lots of dudes named Mike. No Adams.
The owner of our company, the founder, the president, is Jose.
Jose? Well, Jose is just the Mexican Mike.
Yes.
It's Mike on the white side and Jose on the brown man side. This place basically just looked like that, right?
Right. So we started on Wednesday. We worked about 4 hours because we moved the equipment from the last lot to here. Worked about 4 hours, then the rain hit us and we stopped.
Are they letting you truck down the beach in these things?
No. So we're pulling our trucks right in here. We have all our steel plate down here. We were covering over areas so that we can back our trucks into here. You see the Corps of Engineer uses Super 10 trucks. We use 18-wheelers.
Oh, okay.
So they line those things up at $150 an hour all the way down the street, 15 trucks long. And when it's go time, they line them in plastic, load them off to the landfill. We come in 18-wheelers and we're hauling near double per load.
Wow. Again, I'm not trying to cause trouble, but
no.
Custodio guy's been eyeballing me this whole time.
You want to roll with them? It's going to be 3 of them.
He's eyeballing me. It's
going to be 3 of them.
Some Quimby from Hollywood. I'm not, man. I work on these job sites myself, man. I ain't Kimmel.
Will do.
Oh, he's not looking now because he knows about it. Tell him about my dad being one of the #1 rake men in the world. Look at this. You could eat off of this by the time you guys are done over here.
The wind picks up in the afternoon and blows a really fine dust from the sand on everything. So we swept this one up a few hours ago. I actually did a little sweeping over there and it looks horrible. But this was done by these guys. They did a much better job than me.
Well, guy's name is Custodio. So where do we go from here? You go from this property, you got this property. This is you say this is a triple lot?
It's a triple, so it's 3 separate homes.
This is 3 separate homes. And by the way, they're all $15 million houses. You think how small these lots are for the price you pay for one of this. Right. But this is 3 lots, separate lots. And then you're going...
This crew is going to Pacific Palisades on Monday. So I've got a property up there. We've got 4 or 5 properties up there. And we've got 20 in Altadena.
I want you to tell Custodio that if he doesn't stop playing grab ass with that contractor over there...
That's Ricardo.
I'm going to...
Custodio
well, you know what? Tell them both.
These are septic tanks.
Those are septic tanks.
So those are the access lids for septic tanks. So when you remove the concrete that they built that lid on doesn't have any reinforcing in it. So just vibration will crack that. So that's the access hatch for one end. There's 3 access hatches on it.
Do they have to come here and pump these things before you guys get here?
No, we pump them during. So in the process, once we discover where the access hatches are, because it's crazy, I don't know how they would pump these things prior. The house next door, they had concrete over the access lids.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I don't know how they got to them. We couldn't find them. This one here had that manhole cover, and we thought the septic tank was there, so we put a steel plate over the top. Then the owner came and said, no, they're right here. So these have, like, you see that metal frame?
Yeah.
It had a piece of plywood and some like mortar, and then tile over the top. You could barely tell it was there, and it had ash all in the cracks. We couldn't tell. But just to be on the safe side, we put steel plate over the top. But that stuff's so flimsy. Even with the steel plate on top, it cracked all the tile off.
So this is their entryway, and they didn't want a big green plastic lid for access for their septic, so they did a mock thing and they tiled it up and made like an access panel.
Absolutely.
But you would never know that.
No, you would have to look really hard, but with the ash and debris on top, it was impossible. So luckily the owner came out and said, no, it's right around here. So we put some steel plate on top, and even then, even with steel plate and just the vibration of the concrete, look what it does to that concrete. I think call it hard pack, is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Or dry pack?
Dry pack. They call it dry pack.
Yeah.
But I don't know, they should put some, a couple of pieces of number 3 in there or something, just so it doesn't fall
just break
apart.
them, Adam.
Yeah.
I just break them.
Did you get that bottle of booze I sent you?
I did, it's fantastic.
You did?
I appreciate that, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that in the truck? Could I get a...
No, not in the truck, no. That's a no-no for me.
Oh, I told you to bring it though, didn't I?
There was no instructions for that. And it's
Fire
mostly
that
gone
bitch. Fire that bitch. Thanks, Glenn.
You're quite welcome.
Always good to see you, my friend. Del Ricardo, stop eyeballing me for a change, too.
He's gonna bring that rake over and beat us both.